in this episode, we want to talk about the toys or games that we played in our childhood and how does that affect us as adults. I mean, what was the impact of those toys or games in our adulthood, or was there any?
Okay, right.
So,
So,
for instance, I mean, in some ways both of us are very similar people, but I also see that in some ways both of us are quite different as well.
yeah, yeah.
So I just want to discover
You,
if there is if our toys and games had any role to play or not.
yeah. So
Also, can you
this
keep
will
your
bring up
mic closer to your no
this will
from
bring up a
side.
lot of childhood memories. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So let's see what we discover. Um, and if we see a correlation, then we can also talk about what are the things that we can do as parents if we plan to have kids
All right, that is
someday.
going to be one. We
So,
don't want to fuck up our kids. We do
yeah,
not want that.
yeah, cool. So, can you remember what was your first first ever toy as a toddler? Do you remember anything?
Mm, so actually, I think having a sibling makes a lot of difference. Having an elder sibling.
Okay.
So I have the feeling that a lot of the toys that I got were passed down from my sister,
Okay.
and I don't remember any particular toy, but I do remember I used to play a lot with toy cars in general,
Hmm.
and when I didn't have enough to create like a traffic situation, I would convert my pencil boxes into cars, and just like go like vroom vroom all across the room on the floor.
Okay. How old were you?
I must have been around. I think the memory I have is at least of 6 or 7. It doesn't go before that for toys in particular. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I did not have as many toys as other children used to have, and it's not that I wanted more either. Like I don't remember asking or nagging my parents, "Oh, give me more toys."
Okay. You were quite happy
With my
with your life or
with
with
my imaginary car pencil box collection. Yeah.
hmm. And what were the toys that other people had?
I think people used to have very gadgety things like helicopters or I think those.
Like drones?
I mean, this is early 90s. I mean, just toy helicopters. They wouldn't. Yeah, some of them would fly actually, but they were not drones. Um,
Hmm.
and then there were like tiny robot kind of He-Man kind of dolls,
Hmm.
Robocop like dolls.
Okay.
But no, I didn't. I don't remember. I think I used to not play with other people's toys as well. I was just had this awareness that other people seem to have more toys. How was it for you?
So the earliest memory I would have is hmm. I think I can. I remember playing that game, Chidiya Wood game,
Yes, yeah. In which
uh,
you,
in which
how do we play this? Like, let's do this now once.
like so let's say I'm the one who's driving the game. So I'd say Chidiya Ud or bird fly. So if the bird is supposed to fly, you do
Oh,
this.
right. And if I say,
Car fly or
and I
car
do
wood,
this and I lose.
then you
Okay,
lose.
right.
Then
Okay.
yeah. So I remember this. And then I of course remember playing with a lot of cars. So again, I also have an elder sibling. So uh, we used to have a lot of toy cars. To be very specific, we used to buy a lot of Hot Wheels cars, and then yeah, we would also arrange all those
Hmm.
cars and move those around. Um, Also, I remember, um so my brother, when he was maybe 7, 8 years old, which means I was 5, 6 years old,
Hmm.
um, he had a small piano I don't know if you should call it a piano or a synth maybe. I mean, it was this big, like literally this big, about what 12 inches or something.
Hmm.
And there used to be my mom had hired a music teacher who used to
Hmm.
come and teach him piano. So I would also dabble with it a bit.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then as I grew older, let's say around 7 8 years or something, I started playing a lot of chess. I would play it with my brother mostly. So yeah, I remember all these things. But the next question that I would have from this is from your memories of your childhood toys, like let's say until you were 7, 8-ish or maximum 10, or let's say pre-teenage years for you and I, do they uh, do those games affect us as adults in any way? Because I didn't really pick up music. I don't
You
really.
didn't become Beethoven or Mozart by early childhood piano playing.
No,
No.
I did. I enjoyed dabbling with it, but somehow I didn't really
Hmm.
continue with it. Um, I don't have any fascination for cars. I don't even own a car. I don't really know driving. Done a bit of it, but I'm not still not confident enough to drive
Hmm.
alone at least. I need to have someone beside me. I what's the other thing? Chess.
Chess. Are you
I've
into
I
chess?
had some interest in chess, but as I grew older and I would play with other friends and I saw myself losing,
Hmm.
I didn't really continue with
Yeah.
it.
So it's not that you played those things as a kid. It didn't really affect you in the way that those are the things you were really into as adults.
Those were simply the things I had access to. So
Yeah, and it didn't happen that you rebelled. So it's not like you were anti-music or anti-chess either. It's just that it doesn't affect you. Sometimes you like playing chess, sometimes you like playing music, sometimes you don't. So it does. There does seem to be no correlation in your case, at least.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you
For
see
me, at least,
something?
yeah, I mean, that's true. I have no interest in cars, even though I love driving myself.
Hmm.
But I think they pollute. I hate traffic jams. I'm not very materialistic in life. In any case, I prefer cycles to cars. They're environmental friendly, healthy, cheap. Um, but I do think I what has certainly affected my adulthood is having a lot of free time in childhood
Hmm.
for idle imagination. So because I didn't have toys,
Hmm.
I think I used to just spend a lot of time idle and um, thinking or fantasizing about other things. I used to make up stories. I used to make up imaginary cricket scores. I used to think about, oh, what is this world about? And I think
Hmm.
that has definitely carried over in adulthood because I like writing. I like fiction writing. I
Hmm.
like thinking in abstract ways. I like thinking in idealistic ways how the world could be. So I think if I did not have that free time, if I were always engaged with some practical stuff like some practical toy or some other stuff,
Hmm.
then maybe my mind would not go into ideal imaginary worlds as it seems to be easily able to do that now. Um, Seems to have an easier access to that than most other people I know.
Hmm. Okay, so this reminds me something. So I know while I mentioned a lot of
Hmm.
games that I played, despite that, I clearly remember there used to be times when I would simply be bored. I'm like, let's say it's afternoon time. Uh, I'm an early teenager or a pre-teenager. Like let's say a 12 or 13 year old. I am in my house right now after school. It's afternoon time. I was quite good in school, so I don't have to go for any tuitions or anything.
Hmm.
I've already done my homework or whatever I'm supposed to do. Um,
So you're
and
bored, yes,
and
and
I'm bored, and I'm like I'm having this urge to do something creative, to do something, but I just don't know what I should be doing, and I'm just wondering what I should be doing. I want to do something creative, but what do I do? And I'm clueless. And I think today's kids won't be able to relate to it. They have so many things to do because of the internet age.
They're always glued to their screen. You can always glue yourself to your screen now.
Yeah,
Y-
yeah, and I mean that's one way of looking at it. But you can also use it in a productive way. You can, I don't know, go as a kid. You can still go to YouTube and figure out what are the creative things you can do. Or even parents are more aware today, so they'll send their kids to music classes. Or my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, they send their kids to badminton classes. These 5 or 6 years old. Um, so yeah, so what I'm trying to come to is, and as of today, I really enjoy writing. As a blogger, I enjoy filmmaking. And so would you say me being idle and me having this urge to do something creative as a child shaped me as.
Did you actually take up creative things when you were idle? Did you have television at all? Because I think television sucks a lot of time in passive consumption. I mean, it's very different from the internet that we have today, because in internet you can actively engage, but television was like a one-way street. And
True.
did you avoid
So
that?
yeah, we had television, and I really enjoyed watching Discovery Channel. I was just loved it. I would enjoy each and every kind of show, except maybe shows where they would just have animals roaming around. I just
Yeah.
didn't find
No, but what
any
I was
kind of
asking was,
entertainment in
did you
that.
do, when your idle, boring time, did
Uh-huh.
you actually indulge in something creative, or did you watch TV or do something else? How did you break that? How did you?
So it's sort of a blur now. It's like 20 years ago, but what I think how it used to happen was, in my mind, I was very clear that I am having this urge to do something very creative.
Okay, so you
So
remember the
that means,
urge? Yeah,
so that
yeah.
urge won't be fulfilled by watching TV
No.
or talking to someone.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't want to get entertained. I think they were means to get entertained. Like,
Hmm.
by the evening, I could go out, play cricket.
Yeah.
During afternoon, I could watch Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how to fulfill this urge. And sadly, I never talked about it to anyone.
Yeah. So you
To my
never.
mother,
Yeah.
my brother, anyone. I mean, no person actually. I've never even talked about it to my girlfriend. I mean, you are the first person to whom I'm telling this thing
Okay.
about
Wow.
for the first time in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I think, so I guess that because that creative urge did not find an outlet, it stayed with you. And finally, when you were an adult, you were able to access tools, internet, medium where you could have an outlet. It came out in droves. Would
Right.
that be right? That is plausible,
That's
yeah?
that's 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 right. So looks
Yeah.
like it was a blessing in disguise. I
And
just didn't know
maybe
what to do that
that is
time.
the one that is leading to the creation of this podcast. Maybe it goes back. Maybe the germ of this podcast lay in Divyam's childhood.
Yeah, or are yeah, but my question is, are we just trying to find some correlation? Maybe that the point is that I am a creative person. I didn't get an outlet as a childhood. During my childhood has nothing to do with whether or not I'll try to do creative things as an adult.
I mean, when you say I am a creative person, what do you mean? I mean, the question I think is, are we the persons we were, the persons we became, we are they shaped strongly by our childhood? So when you say I am a creative person,
Hmm.
I would just say that I would just imply that that means you had a childhood in which you had strong creative urges,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not either or that. It's not like either you are a creative person or you are creative because of your childhood. It's both. you are a creative person because your early childhood environment
Mm-hmm.
involved having creative urges.
Right, right. So that's the thing, right? I mean, even if I had an
Mm.
outlet that time, doesn't
Mhm.
mean I'll, stop being creative,
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
creating things as an adult. So,
I mean, I'm just going back to your thing with chess and music.
hmm,
You had an outlet for those things and you did stop them. So
interesting.
it is plausible that if you stop a kid from doing something that he wants to do, it will come out in adulthood.
Hmm. Okay. So that's a good counterintuitive lesson in parenting.
No, I think
If you want your kid to do something,
just notice their urges.
don't,
Maybe give them a
yeah,
taste of it, but don't let it.
yeah.
Oh God, no, that sounds horrible. But I think childhood does affect adults. I mean, I've read some biographies of prodigies,
Hmm.
and like Beethoven and Mozart, and like in chess, there's I don't know if you heard of Judith Polgar. She's like a very,
No.
very proficient female chess player,
Okay.
and uh, and then you look at their history, and their family has her two sisters are also very proficient chess player. So
Hmm.
all three extremely highly prodigious chess players were brought up in the same family. So what are the chances? And so it turns out that they got a really good early childhood chess education from their father, and all three ended
Right.
up become really good chess players. So I think if you get into an activity like music or chess or maths is another good example. Early
Hmm.
on, it does give you a strong inclination to do that as an adult. It could
True, right? Yeah.
definitely, yeah. Because our friend Pradeep, who was the guest in the previous podcast,
Right.
he took up his dad was an academic. He took up
Hmm.
programming from an early age, and he
Hmm.
went on to represent India in the International Olympiad, winning a bronze medal. He
Right.
now works for Meta, a really good proficient software engineer. So there are like clearly examples of outliers, people doing really good, talented stuff in their field who were introduced to it in early childhood and did have an outlet for it.
Okay. So this reminds me another thing. So by the time I was what, about 10 years old,
Hmm.
we did get a computer in the house,
Hmm.
and I I really wanted to learn coding
Hmm.
as a 10-year-old. So I picked up a C++ book, started coding in C++. So by the time I was 13 or 14, I made a quiz game sort of a thing using C++, where you would have four options and you would just have to
Pick
uh,
one.
pick one. You'll type A, B, C, or D, and it would keep calculating your total score.
Yeah.
So this sort of a game. So I really liked programming that time. By the time I was 14, 15, I wanted to be. Um, I was fascinated by people like Bill Gates and all. So um, there was another friend of mine who was really into programming. So we made a website and we tried to promote it to among our school friends and all. It was a website to download games. So what I'm trying to come to is, so I really enjoyed programming. While in college, I tried to build our I mean, I was not successful, but I really tried to be a part of our team that built the college cultural fest website, let's say, for example. So, and then I did a lot of freelance work as a website developer. But and then I was a software engineer in the early years of my career. But by the time it was 3 or 4 years, I didn't want to do programming at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm. So in your case, it didn't lead to that prodigious inclination towards later adult.
Yeah.
So I would say so. It's not the only factor. It's not like that doesn't give us a formula that you introduce a child to something and they
Hmm.
would even if they take it up, it doesn't guarantee that later on they will bloom into a real talent in that
Hmm.
particular field. I think it's might be just a combination of both. So you do you think there's some innateness to it, like if a child has an
Yes.
innate inclination?
So I think innately I am sort of a person who wants to do a lot of things, so, like almost everything,
And that is regardless of your childhood.
and
That
that's
is
regardless
something
of my childhood.
something prior to your environment.
Yes, and for that
Hmm.
reason, once I become sufficiently good in something,
Hmm.
I don't want to pursue it further. I want to pick something new.
Hmm.
And I think that's what happened with programming or chess. Not sure about music, but yeah, for that reason, I want to pursue music. I want to learn piano now because I've still not reached that better than average level of knowing music.
Hmm.
And if someday I become sufficiently good in music, I think I would not want to pursue it further. So,
Right. So you have a strong exploratory drive towards new thing, which
yeah.
does, I guess, chime with the idea of creativity.
Hmm.
But it's more breadth first rather than depth first.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of
Hmm.
person I am. How about you?
I remember I had. So, this idea of innateness is interesting because I think I had a very strong drive towards numbers in particular.
Hmm.
And I remember my sister, she was. When I was this is one of my earliest memories. When I was 4 or 5,
Hmm.
certain age, and my sister was 5 years older than me, and she was doing multiplication tables in school, and
Okay.
she taught me multiplication tables.
Okay.
And suddenly I just had this feeling of I got it, I know what it is.
Hmm.
And I was able to do multiplication tables for much higher numbers than my sister was doing in her school.
Hmm.
And that just wowed the people around me.
How old were you?
4 or 5.
Okay.
But then as I showed more interest in numbers and maths,
Hmm.
the more I got introduced to it by teachers, the more encouragement I got. I also remember I used to, even in watching cricket games or cricket scores, I would
Hmm.
just numbers would something light up some part of my brain. It felt like, and I would create
Hmm.
imaginary scoreboards. Um, I would not look at players. I would not look at batting techniques or sixes or fours or great catches. I would just look at numbers.
Interesting.
And I did end up doing mathematics later on in life in college and being good at it. So it's not something, and my parents are quite terrible at maths. I mean, my dad can't figure out numbers at all. He's an architect, bless him. He's very good at drawing,
Hmm.
but he can't do numbers. And my mom is good, but she's not into maths. And that's not something that they particularly nudged me towards.
Right.
So it does seem like you, regardless of environment, there is some kind of innate tendency that you have for certain things. And
Okay. So your innate tendency is to master something that you like or love doing.
no, I wouldn't say that. But I do have an innate tendency towards numbers or,
Okay.
uh, but uh, but you mean like depth first versus breadth first?
Yeah.
I don't seem to have any of those. I just become obsessed with certain things and
Hmm.
I follow them. And during childhood, it was numbers and maths. Later on, I'm trying to remember if I get up. Yeah, sometimes I get obsessed with like certain areas, like philosophy, certain areas of philosophy or language.
Hmm.
But it's always abstract things usually.
Okay. Let's see if the games we played as teenagers, let's say,
Hmm.
does that have any effect on us? Um, do you remember what
So,
games or
so
toys you enjoyed
the
as a?
thing about growing up in the 90s was by the time you were a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
there was this big looming digital age coming up,
Right.
and it was the age of computers and internet.
Right.
And by the time I was a teenager, I had a desktop at home,
Hmm.
and I just got sucked into the world of computer gaming.
Just computer gaming or something else as well?
When we're discussing games, let's just stick to that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, when internet came, I did find people and got into social networking and chatting with people. But like early
Hmm.
on, without internet, it was just computer games, and I used to play a lot of racing games, Need for Speed, Road Rash.
Oh, I've played all those
Lots
games.
of first person shooter games, but I
Hmm.
hope they did not have an effect on me, because if you're playing a first person shooter game,
Hmm.
I do not want to become a shooter growing up.
Right. Right. Of course. Hmm. And do you think that? I mean, do you regret playing all those video games as a teenager? Do you think you could have used your time better that time?
That's a that's a tough question, because I really enjoyed that time. It
Hmm.
felt really, really good, and that was one of the few times in my life when I had no worries about anything, no long-term plans, no goals.
Hmm.
So it just felt like I could live forever in that world of computer gaming. But of course, that wasn't true. And now that I know myself better, I know what I want long term, I have more idea about my values.
Hmm.
Looking back, I feel like that time could have been better spent.
Okay.
Uh,
In what
but
way? Do
uh,
you
mm,
think what you could have done?
I wish I had. So basically, there was a time in my life when I just gave up on mathematics, and that was that time, teenage years.
Okay.
And and I think it's, especially in fields like maths, it's very important to, they become harder to do as you grow older. I think brain is more neuroplastic when you're younger, and so lots of mathematicians, the best
Hmm.
work they do is before 35.
Okay.
So I feel like if I'd spent those years in developing my innate tendency towards maths
Hmm.
more, I could have become a much strong, better mathematician than I was.
Okay. And you could have probably continued with
Continued with maths,
mathematics even today.
possibly, yeah, possibly. One of the reasons I gave up maths was, um, I felt like I would not be able to impact the world
Hmm.
through maths. I do want to leave some sort of impact, and I felt like I'm not good enough in maths. Other people could do better, much better maths than me. Like in terms of original work, original research.
Hmm. So, let's say when you become a parent,
Hmm.
if and when you become a parent, uh, should you should we as parents be nudging our children to do things, to even pick up games or leisure activities which push them towards a specific goal, achieving something specifically in some specific field? Or should it be more like breath first, like do whatever you want?
Yeah, I have an inclination for that, an answer for that, but I'm actually curious about. Um, do you think it should?
um
What do you think about this? Yeah.
it I think it depends on the kind of, what are your goals as a parent. If your goal as a parent is for your child to really achieve something in their life, maybe to fulfill
Hmm.
your desire to achieve something which you could not achieve and you want your child to achieve. I mean, that's a separate discussion altogether, whether
Yeah, but
you
like
should be.
personally, in your childhood, would you have preferred your
Hmm.
parents to introduce you to a lot of different things because you are, as you said, interested in trying out different things?
I think yeah.
I think that would
I
have helped your creativity early
I
on.
wished my parents could have. I mean, um, I think my parents did their best anyway, but
Mm.
yeah, I wish they could have introduced me to more things.
And that would have made you more creative than you are, plausibly.
That could have made me more
Yeah,
creative. I think so.
yeah. I think we certainly have discussed like this innate tendency, and I think children do possess. So there's a theory in there's a theory in philosophy of mind,
Hmm.
which is called tabula rasa. Tabula rasa basically means blank slate, and
Okay.
the theory goes that we are born with a blank slate. We
Hmm.
don't, and we can be, human minds are pliable, and everything we pick up is from our early childhood or later environment. But I
Okay.
think that's not true. I don't think we are born with a blank slate. because I have a strong drive towards numbers and abstract thinking,
Hmm.
regardless of my, I think what my parents, the stimulus my parents introduced me to.
Hmm.
You seem to have strong innate drives of your own towards creativity,
Yes.
and exploring different things. So I think we do have a strong innate drive, and I think in an ideal parenting scenario, a job of a parent should be to identify what that is and feed more of a stimulus towards that. And that might require some trial and error. That might require introducing different kinds of stimulus and
Hmm.
things to the child and watching them, observing them, how they react, what lights up their eyes, what brings them joy, what do they take up immediately, and what do they not like.
Okay. So as parents, you need to do both the things. Like throw a lot of things at the wall, but
And
also see what's sticking.
what's sticking and then give more of that. Yeah, so it's not a very, there's not a formula for it does require presence and attunement with your child, attunement to their emotions, because to see
Hmm.
what's sticking you need to see what brings them joy. You need to observe, you need to be attuned to their feelings.
Right. Yeah, that would be a good learning for
Yeah,
someone who's watching or listening to this podcast. So yeah, if you become a parent, that's what you need to do.
right, good luck being a parent. And
Throw a
I
lot of things at your kid, figuratively only. Cool. That's it.
great.